Welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast, an in-depth talk show discussing exclusively WWE topics.
My name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mat podcast that is beyond the M-A-T-T podcast. Ah!
All right, everybody, welcome to Beyond the Mat. It is Sunday, May 22nd, 2022. We're going to get our watch-along series kicked off here with a little bit of a sneak peek of what we're going to be looking at overall over the whole series. I'm going to start going through the entire year of 1998, all of the Monday Night Raws, and all of the pay-per-views. But we're going to start off with the very first Monday Night Raw of 1999. That's January 4th, 1999. This was a taped show, and it was a show in which Mick Foley won the title for the very first time off of The Rock. A very well-known show, a show in which Tony Schiavone over on Monday Night Nitro for WCW told everybody that over on the other channel, referring to WWE on USA, WWF at the time, that a mid-carder would be winning the title, and that'll really put some ass in the seats, said Schiavone. Well, that caused anywhere between 200 to 600,000 people to change the channel to watch WWF that evening, and was legitimately the end of the Monday Night Wars. This was the mark of when WWE really started to take over and win that Monday Night ratings battle with WCW. And it was a hell of an episode, a hell of a surprise, especially for a tape show that everybody kind of knew what was going to happen because things were leaked. This was at the peak of the Attitude Era. The Rock was a heel at this time. Stone Cold Steve Austin out with an injury, but we did see him make an appearance here tonight. And Mankind was trying to get some revenge on Vince McMahon and his newly formed corporation after being screwed at Survivor Series 98, which we will be reviewing in a special watch-along later on this month. But first, let's get our Peacock machines fired up. We're going to Season 7, Episode 1 of Monday Night Raw on the Peacock. I will be letting you know anytime that we have an ad playing here, so that way you can pause your show if you're watching along with me, and we'll get into it and dissect the show a little bit, watch what happened, try to relive this very memorable moment of the Attitude Era. Now, before we get into anything, I just want to remind you all that on Patreon, if you join us just for $1, we will be able to provide you with ad-free content and video streams, as well as other inside content, Discord channel, and anything else we release you will get early. We have a $1, $3, $5, and $10 tier, but if you join the $1 tier, you'll get the benefits of the $10 tier if you join within the next 4 months. Also, we are available on all podcast platforms. Please like and subscribe us. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts if you can. That really helps us out. Follow us on social media at BeyondMattWWE, and send us an email if you'd like. Email address is Matt, M-A-T-T, at BeyondTheMatt.com, and we will read your question, comment, or whatever it is on the air if you so choose to email in. Now, at certain points during this watch-along, I will track the audio from the episode, so I'll let you know ahead of time when I'm going to do that. But we will get it started here just now. We are starting Monday Night Raw now with that classic Attitude Era intro with the WWE logo. all remember that beginning. Now we got the Shawn Michaels intro video package here showing all of his highlights to start off the show. Track that for a second too.
With one swift kick, Shawn Michaels' illustrious career in the WWF may have come to an end. Shawn's storybook career began over 10 years ago when a bright-eyed young kid captured our hearts with his undeniable charisma. We watched Shawn Michaels grow up and transform into the Heartbreak Kid.
So part of this episode is about Shawn Michaels and what he does to get involved with the WWE corporation here. The Vince McMahon coming in with his corporation to start the show off with the No Chance theme song. Coming into the ring now, Shane McMahon at his side, the Briscoe and Patterson at his side, Ken Shamrock out with 2 belts. He's got the Intercontinental title and the tag team title. Kane in the corporation here. The Rock wearing his Adidas looking attire here. We all know that back in this day, The Rock had some pec surgery, so he was not wrestling in his normal wrestling gear. He's always wearing the suit. Test, also a member of the corporation at this time. He had just come in to the WWE after being a bodyguard for the Motley Crue. And the Big Boss Man in his return to the WWE, this time in the Riot Squad gear, tactical gear, rather than the prison guard suit he had earlier in his career in the early 90s, late 80s. And we have Vince McMahon cutting a promo here mid-ring as we get everything started off, as he's trying to lay down the law, as his corporation runs roughshod here during this period of time. Now, one of the things you notice right off the bat in this episode is the signs everywhere. You got to love that. Seeing all these signs all over the place really brings me back to a simpler time in my life. This episode alone of WWF Raw back in the day was one of the episodes that sold me on WWF when I was going in between WCW and WWF.
If you do, you are likely to turn blue and pass out due to oxygen deprivation, because Shawn Michaels will be a no-show here tonight. Told you. You see, Shawn Michaels has a lot of admirable qualities. However, bravery is not among them.
I don't know about that.
And I hope indeed that you will find it in your hearts to forgive me for firing Shawn Michaels as the commissioner. Again, I did what I thought I had to do. I had to make an example out of Shawn Michaels, and damn it, I did.
That sign said Briscoe Body Shop.
You see, no one, and I mean no one, will ever again disparage my son Shane. And indeed, anyone, and I mean anyone, who even remotely had anything at all to do with the recent emotional scarring of my son Shane.
Emotional scarring.
Will indeed pay.
Vince here's talking about how Shawn Michaels is going to be reprimanded for some actions that he had against son Shane McMahon. We got now Shane and the rest of the corporation, The Rock, and Ken Shamrock all reacting to the fact that Shawn Michaels' music just hit.
He's coming out here. That's backstage. It looks like he's headed out here, King. Shawn Michaels is here. He has not heeded the warning of Mr. McMahon. Gonna be a showdown.
We're going to take a listen to what Shawn Michaels has to say here.
sheriff is back in town.
And that he is.
And this time, Vinny, I brought the cavalry with me.
Cavalry? Oh no! It's DX! What? DX with Shawn.
Shawn Michaels comes out after Vince McMahon turned on him. Comes out with the original faction that he created in D-Generation X. We got Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Billy Gunn, Chyna, Road Dogg, and X-Pac all on the stage now. All your top guys in DX and all your top guys in the corporation.
To my overpriced lawyers, my contract as WWF commissioner is ironclad.
What?
In fact, it was you, Vince McMahon, who said on national TV that this commissioner would answer to no one, including Vince McMahon.
He did say that, King.
Shawn Michaels is here responding to the fact that Vince said that Shawn Michaels is no longer the commissioner, has any power. He's letting Vince McMahon know that he does have power according to his contract to be the commissioner. Funny line here coming up by Jerry the King Lawler. I'm going to track that one here.
Gosh, we got a lousy president, now we're stuck with a lousy commissioner.
So he was pretty funny there, talking about how he's a lousy commissioner there, comparing it to the president. So Shawn Michaels is up here letting Vince McMahon know that a few weeks ago when he had a bingo drawing to determine the entrance of the Royal Rumble, including himself and Stone Cold Steve Austin, drew number 1 for Stone Cold Steve Austin, drew number 30 for himself. Shawn Michaels is reminding Vince McMahon that he, as the commissioner, has say-so over all WWE competitors. And Vince McMahon being an entrant in the Royal Rumble means that Shawn Michaels has say-so over him, and Shawn Michaels tells him he has to enter number 2 against Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Royal Rumble, rather than having the easy 30 spot and letting everybody else take care of Austin. So this sets up Austin and McMahon in the Royal Rumble as the number 1 and number 2 entrants for the 99 Rumble, which we all know was a great show. It had the I Quit match with The Rock and Mankind. And speaking of The Rock and Mankind, that's kind of where we're going with this episode here. So here we'll track Michaels here and Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler's reaction to this.
Stone Cold Steve Austin will be the first man to enter the Royal Rumble.
Uh-oh. I don't like the sounds of this.
And the second man who will be entering the Royal Rumble will be Vince McMahon.
Whoa! Mr. McMahon will enter the Royal Rumble number 2. Can he do this? Can he get away with this? Do what he wants.
So as best I can tell, that ought to give old Stone Cold all night to open a can of whoop ass on you. Now,
so there you go. You have HBK putting Vince McMahon in a situation with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Royal Rumble. Now, later on, there's going to be a promise that HBK makes that something real cold will be coming to the corporation later this evening. We'll see what that happens. And then, of course, we have the corporation beat him down later in the show, which we'll track when we get there. As we continue on through the show, we have many different things very, very akin to the Attitude Era In fact, Shawn Michaels says that he will have a surprise that will drive him stone cold crazy. So that gives a little foreshadowing for what might happen later in the night. It was rumored before this show that Stone Cold may be making a return here. Like I said, he was hurt up to this point and out of action. The Rock was your WWF champion after winning the title at Survivor Series. So now they get out of this segment and they're showing us what's coming up the rest of the night. We got the old school Attitude Era graphics, hardcore match with Al Snow and the Road Dogg Jesse James coming up later tonight. And we get to a commercial. Back from the commercial, we zoom in. We have the world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock, making his way to the ring with his Intercontinental title belt as well as his tag team title belt. At this time, he was tag team champions with Big Boss Man. I really liked Ken Shamrock in his run there with the WWE for a while. I really thought he had a chance to be, a big time star. He had a great feud with The Rock over the Intercontinental title before he won it. He was a big part of the story at the Survivor Series pay-per-view. And it's just really nice to see him here. I really liked him. A lot of us remember the Ryan Shamrock angle with his kayfabe sister and everything that came of that with Val Venus and Goldust and things of that nature. Shamrock ended up leaving the company early in the year 2000 after he wanted to pursue some bigger fights in UFC that he didn't feel like he would be able to get if he had stayed in WWE much longer. One of the things that held him back during his time in the WWE was his lack of mic skills. Now he's in here with Steve Blackman, the Lethal Weapon. Blackman comes out here. It's interesting because in this match, you have Blackman against Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is the heel, but he's fighting as if he's the babyface. He's taking the beating from Blackman. Blackman's acting like he's the heel, when really it's the other way around. Now, their chemistry in the ring's really good because they're both shoot fighters. They're both martial artist specialists. Really good to watch. Nice chemistry. The intensity of Shamrock in these matches is great. And Steve Blackman just being a badass karate chopping guy. They're really nice to watch in the ring. I really like these two. It was a shame that Blackman really got relegated back to the hardcore division after this. He did a little bit with Snow in the tag team realm. Now we see Shamrock just hit a big body slam. Near fall there on Blackman. Dan Severn now out at ringside in a neck brace. He had an injury in the Brawl for All. We'll probably do an episode of the Brawl for All one day. That was a huge disaster, huge big mistake by the WWE. Referee Tim White in the ring. Typical Attitude Era referee. Shamrock taking control of the match now. Hits a snap suplex. Big knee drop. We're continuing on here. Severn's ringside, watching what's going on. Shamrock just noticed him. Shamrock's in control of the match now, picking up the head of Blackman, nails him in the face with a knee, drops him down. Severn's just at ringside looking like he's pissed off at somebody. Nobody's really paying attention. Blackman goes for an inside cradle here, almost wins the match. That pisses off Shamrock. Shamrock nails him with a lariat, takes him down. Again, we're in the Attitude Era here. Signs everywhere. Crowd is hot. Now Shamrock sees Dan Severn. Tells him to get the hell out of here. Dan Severn doesn't seem to care. Now we got Shamrock having his way with Blackman, but Blackman making a little bit of a comeback. It's some chest first into the turnbuckle and then a drop kick. Now he's hanging him and choking him on the top rope. Like I said, the two of these guys worked really well together. They had similar fighting styles, both shoot fighters. Backbreaker by Blackman there. And it just, the way that they were working this match, you couldn't tell who the heel and the babyface was. Shamrock was making all the babyface moves, the comeback moves, and Blackman was sort of beating the heck out of Shamrock the whole time. Now we got Shamrock getting Severn to come up on the apron, knocks him off with a big right hand. Severn's now trying to interfere. From behind, Billy Gunn comes in, Fame-asser to Shamrock. Blackman makes the cover. Referee doesn't see it because he's distracted by Severn. And we get the 1, 2, 3. Ken Shamrock gets pinned by Steve Blackman after Billy Gunn interfered with the Fame-asser. He looks pretty pissed off here. Looks like he might snap. That was kind of his gimmick. Hit his head, went down, ran up the stage. So now we got Dan Severn at ringside, Steve Blackman in the ring after the victory, having his hand held up. Now it's interesting. We just had the corporation out with Shamrock, and then they bring Shamrock out again for the first match. And we also had Billy Gunn out with DX, and he comes out to interfere in the first match. So they hit their music twice, 3 times in the same 10-minute span. Before we go to a commercial, we see an advertisement of The Rock and Vince McMahon on the cover of a magazine. During this time, the magazines actually wanted Vince McMahon to take these photos with Stone Cold Steve Austin, but Vince McMahon convinced the TV Guide and the different publications that The Rock was the next star that they were bringing up. He's the guy you want to take the pictures with. Now, at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin was still champion. So everybody was like, what are you talking about? Why do we want this Rock guy? He's not a big deal. And Vince convinced them that The Rock was the next big thing. He was the next guy that they were growing. He was going to be the big face of the company. Turned out to be true. But a lot of those Rock and Vince McMahon pictures from back then were almost Steve Austin and Vince McMahon pictures, but he ended up changing them because he saw what The Rock was going to become. And he wasn't even huge at this point. He was still a heel. People didn't really like him, but when he came out, even though he was a heel, it wasn't Die Rocky Die anymore. People could tell that they were seeing something big. We come back from the break, we get a replay of what happened in the former match. And it's brought to you by 1010-220. It's funny seeing those advertisements after all these years. 1010-220, make your 99-cent up to 20-minute phone call backstage. We got a brawl here. Shamrock and Billy Gunn beating each other up backstage. Shamrock gets thrown into the wall. Billy Gunn gets the better of him here. And they just continue to fight it out. Now Shamrock gets the upper hand. And then Jimmy Corderas, Earl Hebner, Dave Hebner, a couple other guys come in and break this one up. All right, so we're at about 18, 19 minutes here at the watch along. 19 minutes exactly now. We're getting an entrance here. We will track the entrance.
Mankind doing here? What?
Mankind.
He's not scheduled for a matchup. Well, King, let's go back to 2 weeks ago on Raw. Shane McMahon challenged Mankind. Mankind dismantled Shane, and then he gave Mr. Jocko to Pat Patterson.
Mankind's going to come out here, and he has a match with Shane McMahon as a special guest referee, and he's going to cause something to happen here and make a demand. Let's track it.
Myself, I've done a couple things for the first time. Maybe you saw it on Raw, but I swear it was the first time I'd ever grabbed a man's testicles in my life. What? Patterson, I gotta tell you, in a rugged, manly type of way, I kind of enjoyed it.
Oh, come on. This guy's an idiot. Poor Pat Patterson.
It was also the first time that Mick Foley has ever used the words "suck it" without a please in front of them. Hey, and I just found out. You like that, huh?
No, I don't like that.
I just found out that I've got a new hobby that I like best of all, and it's called kicking the McMahon family's asses.
What? How dare him?
He's done it for a couple of straight weeks.
Vince McMahon, although you hate my guts and I hate every single inch of you,
I guess I've got a little favor to ask. You see, I would like a shot at The Rock's title at the Royal Rumble pay-per-view.
Oh, he wants a favor now, huh?
And I think I deserve it. Not because I made your son Shane cry and whimper like a 2-year-old with a poop in his pants.
Oh, you're going to get it.
Not because I bounced your head off those beer kegs like Ricky Ricardo playing Babalu on the bongos.
Now he's a comedian.
But because I see all these signs out here that say Foley is God. But I think they got one letter wrong. You see, Foley is not God, but he is pretty damn good. And I beat The Rock. I shoved a sock down his throat, and I deserve the shot at the Royal Rumble.
King, he did beat The Rock at rock bottom, only to have it ripped away from him.
What I humbly am asking you right now is to get your... Can I say ass on television?
No!
Get your ass out here now, Dad!
He said it!
Mankind demanding Mr. McMahon come out.
I'm waiting for you, Mr. McMahon.
He's asked Mr. McMahon for a favor.
And he even called him Dad.
A shot at the... Uh-oh. And there he is. The owner of the World Wrestling Federation. Will he grant Mankind his favor?
Least anybody think I'm going to be surprised. I won't be. The corporate team is right behind me.
Of course.
As far as you go, Mankind, you're nothing but a disillusioned, decrepit, disfigured monster.
Right.
You asking to be the #1 contender for the World Wrestling Federation title simply stains that sacred honor. Your name connected with the WWF title stains, indeed, the World Wrestling Federation itself. You see, you've had your opportunities in the past, and quite frankly, you blew it. You didn't listen to me. Had you listened to me, you may be the WWF champion now, but no, you had to do what you always did. You listened to them. What is it with you? All the cheap motel rooms, all the bad food you eat, all the sacrifices you put your physique through, and for what? Just for the roar of them.
Yeah. They love it.
God, how pathetic. How pathetic.
I like that roar.
You see, you crossed over the line. Because in essence, what you did was you soiled the good McMahon name when you put your filthy, slimy hands on my son Shane. And you got the guts to ask me to be the #1 contender against The Rock for the Royal Rumble. I'm amazed. Let me say this. You know, and everyone in this building knows, you don't deserve the right to be the #1 contender.
So Vince McMahon is basically telling him, no, he does not deserve the right to be the #1 contender. Now, for those who don't know, back at Survivor Series 98, the final match of the Deadly Games tournament was The Rock and Mankind, and they basically called back to the 97 Montreal Screwjob when The Rock put Mankind in the sharpshooter, and Vince McMahon had the bell ring and crowned The Rock the new champion of the WWF. So in this promo here, Mankind's requesting to be the #1 contender, and Vince McMahon is laughing at him and saying no. We'll get later on in the show to where he attacks Shane McMahon and demands his title shot on this very night, but that's a little bit later on. I mixed up a little bit with the timing of when the special guest referee situation was. So this is now Vince McMahon setting up a Royal Rumble qualification match between Triple H and Mankind. He's saying that the special guest referee will be Shane McMahon. He throws to the Titantron. He lets us know a couple weeks ago how Shane got beat up by Mankind, got the Sacco and the knee strike in the corner. Show us that. But the big thing that you could tell in this segment is that Mankind was very over and Vince McMahon was very much playing his heel Mr. McMahon role. He's saying in this promo it'll be a special guest referee, but it ends up being Shane. And that's what he says to close the promo. Michael Cole saying it's not fair. Jerry the King Lawler all excited. McMahon ends it with "Have a nice day." Again, you heard the crowd going very crazy for McMahon, calling him an a-hole, and you heard him popping serious for Foley. Foley had that really strange way of delivering his promos where he always sounded like a distraught individual. I really liked him. Just before we go to the break, we see Michael Cole introduce Chyna backstage as her being with her girlfriend. Now, the story here is that Mark Henry had been distracted by Chyna and this so-called girlfriend for a while now, and it's been holding him up, distracting him during his match. And he's up next. We got his entrance coming here.
I know it's going to be good. But I'll tell you what,
Let's get you in the mood, King. A sexual chocolate heads to the ring. Last night on Heat, Mark Henry losing to Triple H after being distracted by his love interest, Chyna, and what do you bring that up for? What do you mean, bring it up? It happened, didn't it? Quit living in the past. Well, Mark Henry is smitten by Chyna, to say the least.
After his entrance, we get that Raw is War brought to you by Castrol GTX. It's great to see those Attitude Era ads again, and brought to you by Burger King. If you ask us, it just tastes better. Love seeing those old ads. And we have Goldust coming out here, take on Mark Henry in this match. Interesting matchup here. Always liked Dustin as a performer. Thought he was one of the best workers I've ever seen, honestly, in his time. Had a crazy gimmick and kind of got a little bit out there with some of the stuff when he was coming out in diapers and things like that, or some of the programs with Stone Cold Steve Austin. But always enjoyed his presentation and his work. Nobody ever took a flat back bump quite like Goldust did. And I really just enjoy seeing him. You know, it brings me back to that Attitude Era time when you see a guy like Goldust. He's straight up Attitude Era, quintessential part of it. Not a mainstay top card guy, but a major player in the mid card there during the Attitude Era. So we see him and Mark Henry take on each other in this match. Got gold flakes flying all over the place. They really put a lot in the production of his entrance. They had the filter on the camera. Looked like it was produced out of Hollywood or something like that. They start with a big tie-up. World's Strongest Man, Mark Henry, pushes him straight to the ground. Goldust and Mark Henry in this match. Not too long of a match here. Overpowering is Mark Henry on Goldust. We're waiting for that interference or that distraction from Chyna or Chyna's so-called girlfriend in this one. Now, one of the things that I'll say about this era of time, this was before Mark Henry was really the Mark Henry that he would become. He was still very green. He had some issues, they'd say, with his weight and things like that. And that's why they put him in the Nation just before this. A lot of guys were put in the Nation of Domination to sort of help protect them and help them grow. And it's a lot like what we're seeing today with the Judgment Day faction. You got a veteran like Edge running it, and you got guys underneath of him. In this case, day and age, we have ladies as well working underneath of him and trying to build up themselves while you keep the veteran Edge protected and only really wrestling in big matches on pay-per-views. So right now we got Mark Henry still going at it with Goldust. Hits a huge snap body slam coming off the ropes here. Puts Goldust down for a minute. Goldust here selling really well. These two actually worked pretty well together, given the fact that Mark Henry was pretty young at this age. You know, he was in the 96 Olympics. They signed him really early to a big, long contract. He eventually became a big-time player later in the mid to late 2000s. And, of course, we all know his involvement in the other promotions as well. It's a big elbow splash here on Goldust. Goldust selling this thing like he's getting totally killed by a much bigger man. This match is going way longer than I thought it would when I initially saw this show, considering that it's just Goldust and Mark Henry on a 2-hour Raw show. But back in the Attitude Era, they really did a good job of giving guys time in these matches on TV, way less commercial breaks. Mark Henry continues the big power moves. Now we get the distraction. We have Chyna and her so-called girlfriend at the top of the ramp here, and Mark Henry is distracted.
I think Mark's a little bit confused here.
He better not be confused because Goldust from behind, and he's going to pay for it. Back of his head into the mat. And Goldust now asking the fans, do you want some shattered dreams? So Chyna once again has come out to the stage with a friend that we saw last night on Heat. What is that all about?
It's a major distraction for Mark Henry. He can't keep his eyes or his mind off Chyna.
Well, he better get his mind on Goldust and shattered dreams here.
Oh no! If this happens, you might as well forget about Chyna.
Mark Henry still stinging from that blow to the back.
No! Oh man! He got him!
Shattered dreams delivered from Goldust to Mark Henry.
So Goldust gets disqualified here after hitting the Shattered Dreams on Mark Henry. He hit the curtain call on Mark Henry before that when he was distracted by Chyna and her girlfriend. Chyna, her girlfriend, then make her way to the ring. It's interesting when they reveal who Chyna's girlfriend is later on. Now, Mark Henry was involved in a lot of different weird angles, but before I get to that, the Shattered Dreams was a move that Goldust used, if those of you don't know, where he would put his opponent in the corner, hang both of their legs on the ropes, and then charge at him with the knee to the groin. So he really took out the sexual instruments there. Chyna's going to come down here and say something to Mark Henry here.
Confession to make. The other night with you was incredible.
Whoa! The other night?
No, I'm serious, it was. But I'm afraid that I'm not enough woman for you.
What?
No, I'm serious. Because the fact is that you're way too much man for one woman, sexual chocolate.
Well, everybody knows that.
You are. So I want you to meet my friend Sammy.
Sammy?
Now I know you like tall women.
Hello, Sammy.
And I know that you like exotic dancers. So I have a little proposition for you. I thought that only if it was okay with you, that Sammy and I can help you take a load off your mind.
Timber! Wait a minute, he fainted! Mark.
So Chyna offers her girlfriend to Mark Henry. Mark Henry falls over like a tree, passes out. So you can see where they're going with Mark Henry here. A lot of cheap love angles with him. Sexual chocolate's his gimmick. He would have a gimmick where he would go and get involved with Mae Young romantically, and Mae Young would give birth to a hand as the baby that they created, which is pretty ridiculous. But you can just tell that we're in the Attitude Era here with the way that China's out here talking about what they did the other night and things like that. And she's not enough woman for him, and she has a friend for him. Now, I will say that if you're watching this along with me, you can tell that the girlfriend of China is a little bit masculine, and it is revealed later on that that girlfriend is in fact a man, and Mark Henry might have passed out this time, but I can't believe what he did when he found out that it was a man. But we'll have to wait until other watch-alongs. We're further along in this year to see what happens with that. We get back from the break and we see a man hanging in a very dark area, screaming, "Can somebody help me? Can somebody help me?" This is Dennis Knight, the former Phineas Godwin pig. He ends up turning into the character Midian after being abducted by by the Ministry of Darkness, which was the Undertaker's faction at the time. The way that they were acquiring their members of the faction was by abducting people. And there was one time where the Undertaker cut somebody's arm and drank their blood out of a goblet. All these things were very, very Attitude Era, very, very not something you'd see today. And it's just a sign of the times. We got Godfather coming out next. Let's track his entrance.
Oh my, King, wasn't that Dennis Knight hanging there? I don't know, but that looked horrible. Where was he? Last week on Raw, we saw Dennis Knight attacked in the parking lot by the acolytes and thrown into a trunk of a car. Now he's hanging somewhere. I'll tell you what, speaking of hanging.
Godfather's got all of his train with him.
Set for action this week on Raw, and the sign says it all. But last week it wasn't easy for the Godfather. He was supposed to be.
Godfather's got the hoe train with him.
Attack the Godfather, putting him out of action to set up a matchup between Kane and Billy Gunn. Apparently, Mr. McMahon had Billy Gunn next on the DX hit list.
Yeah, Kane got him a little bit of that action too, didn't he?
If you like what you're looking at, let me hear you say, pimpin' ain't easy.
He doesn't mean you, King.
I like what I'm looking at.
Again, something else we would not hear today. Pimpin' ain't easy.
And look at this guy.
His opponent, he weighs in at 281 pounds.
And now we have Test entering, member of the corporation. Like I said, interesting that we have different corporation members already have come out for the big show opening promo with the whole corporation. Different DX members have already come out for that opening promo. And then almost every segment, one or two of those same men are also out, or women if you count China. But we have a match here between Test and the Godfather here. Godfather, formerly Kama. He was a member of the Nation of Domination as well. He's one of my favorite wrestling characters of all time. I do have the audio playing a little bit in the background for you so you can hear it. We got Test here in one of his first matches on Raw's War. Still very green. I really thought Test was a guy that was going to grow into something in the WWF. I thought that he was a guy who had some promise. He had the look. You know, Vince really liked the way he looked because he looked a lot like a poor man's Kevin Nash. He did not perform like a Kevin Nash, though. Ultimately, we lost Test way too early in 2007 due to a drug overdose. He did have some career time in TNA after he left WWE. Never really got too far in WWF as far as moving up the card. He was at one time European champion, Intercontinental champion, and hardcore champion at different times, but never made it into the main event scene. They really had high hopes for that. Now in this match here, we have Val Venus coming to the top of the ring. Again, nothing more Attitude Era than Val Venus. We got Val Venus and Godfather in the same picture here. That's Attitude Era at its finest. Ringside now, we got Godfather and Test going at it. Lots of matches spilled to ringside back in this era.
You're going to see a lot more of that later on when Road Dogg defends the Hardcore Championship against Al Snow.
Hey, ref, how about doing something here? Watch all those fists from the Godfather.
Val Venus likes what he sees. He mentioned a good friend of the Godfather's. And Godfather into the ring post, shoulder first. And the referee's going to call for the bell.
Uh-oh, we got problems here. Look at this.
Val Venus.
Here they go.
Head on with Test. And they're going in outside the ring.
Come on, Test, get him.
Val Venus and Test hammering.
Val Venus runs in at the end of the match after it ends in a DQ, attacks Test here, and then it looks like we're going to have a feud between the two of those coming up. But we also have the Hardcore Championship match coming up between the Road Dogg and Al Snow. We go through this whole post-match beatdown sequence between Venus and Test, and then we see Shawn Michaels kicking it backstage with DX. We got Michael Cole and Jerry the King Lawler both surprised to see them together, saying, hey, they must be back together. What's this all about? We'll find out what it's all about later on in the episode here. Now, getting ready for our hardcore title match here, and we're also getting ready for the match between Hunter Hearst Helmsley or Triple H and Mick Foley or Mankind with the special guest referee Shane McMahon. And that's really the big moment of the show where everything kind of turns. Before we get further along, we're going to pause real quick to pay some bills, and we will be right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back.
All right, guys, we're back here on Beyond the Mat for the watch along. I have it paused now at 41 minutes and 20 seconds. We're almost halfway through the Monday Night Raw episode. Just to go over a couple of housekeeping items, we're going to continue with our Raw and SmackDown reviews every Monday and Friday. They will either be dropped that night or the following day. We'll continue with the weekly fix as well with me and Kyle, and we will have our mailbag session with myself and Chris. We'll also be adding a lot more watch-alongs. At least once or twice a week we'll have a watch-along getting posted. And like I say, to get rid of those commercials that we have at the beginning and the end and the middle of these episodes, if you subscribe to Patreon, you'll get all of our content ad-free, which I know is a big relief because the ads are a pain. Even if you're having to fast forward through them, you don't want to do that. Just $1 and you will have all the benefits of Patreon, which will be free merchandise, Discord server, exclusive access to inside information before it's released to the general public, exclusive first run access to all of our shows, and of course the ad-free content. Let's get back into the show now. We're getting a double feature, our typical double feature of the Attitude Era, where they show what happened last week. They had Shane McMahon getting beat down by Mankind and the corporation being held back by Vince McMahon so that they could not save him. This was the Slam of the Week, brought to you by the video game Smash Brothers. So that's interesting. That's pretty fun that we had that. Just to throw back there. Now we got Shane McMahon running in to be the special guest referee. We're going to have Mankind coming out in a second, and we will track that so you see what happens with this. Now, back to the thing about the change in audience and the ratings. The WWE ended up winning the rating for this show, and had they not had the 600,000 viewers change, then it would have been a win for WCW, a narrow win, but it would have been a 5.2 to a 5.3, as opposed to a 5.9 to a 4.9, which is what it ended up being. Now we have the D-Generation X intro here for Hunter Hearst Helmsley. He gets in the ring, Not as many bottles of water as we got used to in the Ruthless Aggression era. Still looks a little bit trimmer than he got, not as jacked as he became. Doing the DX intro here. Very over. Let's track these next couple entrances here.
Good. You heard that, didn't you, Michael?
Well, despite what happened 2 weeks ago, Shane McMahon just said that he will...
Tell by the sound of the crowd that DX is very over in this era. They're loving their DX here. And then we're going to have Mankind out now.
You know, Mankind comes down here in this ragged shirt, the ragged tie, the mask, the tattered pants. He might as well just have a bullseye painted on his chest.
You know what he might as well do? He might as well just take a hike and leave the WWF. He's been denied the chance to ever wrestle for the WWF.
And this is where Mankind really turns the tables on the whole night and makes the night real interesting. And it's really key moment of the night, other than obviously the big moment at the end of the night. So we have Shane McMahon in the ring as the referee, Triple H in the ring as well, about to take on Mankind.
Mr. McMahon is just trying to do all he can to knock Mick Foley down.
Look at that look. Little scarred Shane.
Scarred Shane. There's a little smile on his face there. He claims he will be impartial. A slot in the Royal Rumble is on the line. We already know 2 participants. Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Number 2, and an edict handed down tonight from Commissioner Shawn Michaels, Mr. McMahon.
My prediction to win the Royal Rumble.
Who? Stone Cold?
Mr. McMahon.
Oh, come on. Well, Mr. McMahon has been in training. He's in tremendous shape, but he may have to be in even better training the next 3 weeks. He's going to be number 2 in the Rumble, and Triple H now with a right hand to Mankind. Mr. McMahon attempting to drive a wedge between...
They're going along with the match here. Mankind had an advantage. Now Triple H gains the advantage. Before this match is over, though, or after it, we're going to get a serious threat by Mankind here to Vince McMahon, and he's going to leverage this threat into getting what he wants. So let's see what happens here. Triple H continues to be in control. Now, I always liked the way that they would do this stuff. You really wouldn't see it coming. You know, you thought that Mankind was screwed at Survivor Series. You thought McMahon was going to continue to be the jerk boss and not let him get what he wants. And the way that they did this, the way that they tied everything together with Shane McMahon was really, really, really well done. And that's the one thing that I can credit Vince Russo for during this era. He was very good at maintaining storylines and having everybody involved in different storylines. Mark Henry had his storyline that we talked about earlier. Ken Shamrock was in a storyline. Test is in a storyline. Godfather is in a storyline. Everybody's in a different storyline. And it's all, whether or not some of them are good, some of them are bad, at least everybody has a reason to be doing what they're doing. And I think that that's something that you have to give Vince Russo a lot of credit for. Now we have Mankind drop kicking Triple H ringside, taking him out. This match is continuing to go on for a pretty long time. Mankind definitely has the upper hand here, and he's getting ready to attack Shane McMahon as Shane McMahon's trying to stop him from attacking Triple H at the ringside area. Now, as we continue on here, we're going to see a situation where Shane McMahon just kicked Mankind in the face, causing a sunset flip for Triple H to win, did a fast count, hit the 1, 2, 3. In fact, let's track that real quick.
Twice before in the past 2 months. Look at Triple H now over the top rope.
Yeah, that's good. Good move.
Triple H. Oh, wait a minute, it's over.
Yes! That was a quick count.
What? That was a quick count.
Good move, Mankind.
So there's the quick count there, and now we're going to listen to what Mankind does following the match to set up what happens later.
Anyone deserves to lose? It's him. Mankind.
Mankind is not eligible for the Rumble. That was a quick count, King. You saw it.
That'll teach Mankind to ever put his mitts on Shane McMahon.
Mick, hey, I'm sorry, but business is business.
Triple H helps take out Shane, and now we have Mankind standing over Shane, getting ready to say something to him or maybe do something to him.
Back in Ward Melville.
What's he doing? Shane's already hurt from the pedigree.
Shane, I'm going to break your shoulder. Who here in Worcester wants to hear Shane scream? Hold it right there, Vince. I'll break it off.
Vince comes down the aisle.
I'll break your shoulder.
Listen, Mr. McMahon's here. He's all Shane scream. Let him out, you son of a bitch.
Vince, I've changed my mind. You see, I no longer desire a title shot at the Royal Rumble.
Let him up, Shane. Please, let him up.
I want a title shot tonight.
What? Tonight? Just let him up.
What'd you say? Okay?
Yes, buddy, yes.
Let me think it over.
Let him go.
Not good enough, Dad.
Let him go.
I want a stipulation. What do you say, Shane?
Let go. Damn it. Let him go.
No DQ. What do you say, Dad?
All right, no DQ.
What'd you say, no DQ?
You got it.
I guess we've got ourselves a little deal.
Let him go. It's going to be Mankind versus The Rock, no DQ. Mankind, you Shane McMahon as bait. The WWF Championship's on the line.
So like we heard Michael Cole say, that Mankind used Shane McMahon as bait to earn his title opportunity tonight with The Rock. So he's not going to have to wait until the Royal Rumble. He has a title shot tonight. Couple that with what Shawn Michaels said about the Stone Cold surprise, and you can only start to think of what might happen later in the main event, especially with the match being no DQ as Mankind demanded it be. So this is a setup for a big moment, a big match tonight. The Rock comes out here. He seems pissed off that they're giving the title match to Mankind, but The Rock is basically being told by Vince McMahon he's going to have to win the match no matter what, and that he will win the match because the rest of the corporation will be ringside to support him. So we're going to move on here into the next segment of the show. Now, to be honest with you, how stupid was it of Vince McMahon to put Shane in the position to be the special guest referee of a match with Mankind, who he just got attacked by 2 weeks ago, and also Triple H, who was just out with the Generation X faction and is clearly not aligned with the corporation. He was definitely putting his son in a bad position there. So we get back from the break there, and we have a moments ago, we're now in the war zone of Raw. This was in the era of the first hour being Monday Night Raw, the second hour being called the War Zone, where it was a little bit more explicit and a little bit more raw, if you will, and edgier during the 10 to 11 o'clock hour. So Vince McMahon gives the title shot to Mankind here, and The Rock is pissed off about it. Now we have another entrance starting here.
Who has to defend the WWF Championship against Mankind in a no disqualification match tonight.
This is Edge's original entrance. He's entering from the crowd. This is a great throwback.
He is unique, to say the least. Set for one-on-one action tonight. But I cannot wait. I can't believe Mankind will have another shot at the WWF Championship right here tonight. I cannot believe it. That's just not right. Taking the 1999 Royal Rumble from the sold-out Arrowhead Pond in Anaheim, California in 3 weeks on pay-per-view is proudly presented by 10.
We get a Royal Rumble ad here brought to you by 10-10-220. We are 52 minutes and 30 seconds into the show for those of you who need to catch up. And we are going to have D'Lo Brown come out here, another former Nation of Domination member, to take on Edge here. Edge, very young. This is one of, the first months or so he was with the company. Came in late 98 as a Lost Soul character. Still is that character, entering from the crowd and things like that. D'Lo Brown was a very good worker. A lot of people respected him very much. He ended up having an accident with Darren Drozdoff. At one point during a house show, they went for a running powerbomb spot that they did routinely. Darren Drozdoff ended up getting caught up in D'Lo Brown's shirt, and he didn't get his head up for the powerbomb. His neck ended up landing awkwardly, and he was paralyzed from the neck down permanently. It's something that affected D'Lo Brown to this day, to be honest with you. D'Lo Brown's now a CPA, and he no longer is in the wrestling industry, but he was a great hand at the time and had a lot of potential. He was really a good worker. There was at several times where he was over, several times where people didn't like him. This was sort of Edge's start to his career. Before he really joined the Brood and the Ministry of Darkness, he was kind of a loner here. Just hit a big tope suicida over the top to D'Lo Brown. D'Lo Brown would wear a chest protector at this time and would win a lot of matches with that chest protector. A lot of people used to talk crap about it. I also thought it was pretty lame, if you ask me. But here we go with D'Lo Brown laying Edge out on the barricade. Again, Attitude Era, lots of ringside action. Doesn't seem like the refs really care about DQing anything, although we did see a couple DQ finishes, lots of non-finishes in the Attitude Era as well. D'Lo hits a split-legged leg drop, taunts to the crowd. Everybody boos him here. They're continuing to build these two guys. Now we still have our Hardcore Championship match coming up, and of course our Rock versus Mankind main event. Now during this match, Cole and Lawler are going over on commentary about what kind of champion Mankind would be if he was a champion. They're basically saying that he's not fit to be a champion, which foreshadows to me what may be happening at the end of this show. That's at least what I thought at the time. So we got these two guys, D'Lo Brown and Edge, milking this match a little bit, and they're going to be finished pretty soon. Jimmy Corderas in their Attitude Era referee making the count. Running powerbomb spot we just saw with D'Lo and Edge was the same exact spot that was botched that ended up paralyzing Darren Drozdoff. But hits it here, misses his frog splash. Edge here wearing his blue tights. This was, I believe, the first set of ring gear he had was the blue tights. It's a big drop kick. Let's track a little bit of the match here.
And keep in mind, he already defeated The Rock at rock bottom.
They're talking about Mankind defeating The Rock.
Look at this. Watch it, D'Lo. Oh, what an athletic move by Edge. D'Lo in trouble. He's in La La Land. Edge on the top rope now.
Watch yourself,
He's
D'Lo.
gonna fly. What a cross body into a lateral press. Two, and D'Lo gets the shoulder up.
I really liked Edge early in his career. I thought that he was a guy that was really going to make it pretty far. And now we have TNA walking down to the ring for a distraction.
Showing and pumps, I understand. Oh, beautiful. You've been having morning sickness. Morning sickness? Well, you know, I get those weird cravings at night.
So D'Lo catches Edge midair, hits a power bomb, but Terry Reynolds comes out and distracts D'Lo.
Oh, look at D'Lo.
Terry's still not telling who the father is. She's up on the apron now.
She doesn't know. Look out. Oh, no.
Wait a minute. Terry she slipped off the steel stairs.
Story here is that Terry Reynolds is pregnant and she just fell off the stair steps, and that could have damaged her pregnancy. She's at the ring with Jacqueline. They were known as PMS, Pretty Mean Sisters, at this time.
She climbed up on the apron, a verbal confrontation with D'Lo. And apparently she slipped off the stairs.
We need some help.
again, a very Attitude Era storyline here with the pregnancy and the miscarriage possibility here. This pretty much ended Edge and D'Lo's match. They got a stretcher to come out to take Terry Reynolds away, and D'Lo looks totally distraught. Edge is in the ring looking completely confused. Now, I was going to say back at this time, I really liked Edge. I really saw him as the future. I couldn't wait to see where he would go. He had those awesome tag matches with Hardys and with the Dudleys in the triangle ladder matches and the TLC 2.0s. And then I thought maybe that's where he was going to stay in the tag team realm. He ended up splitting up to be a single. It didn't really work out at first, but once he became the rated R superstar gimmick, he really took off. He really started to be a good heel. I was so happy when he finally became the world champion, and he was a guy that at that time I thought, hey, this guy's going to be one of the big top guys one day. And it turned out to be true. And that's always something I look at, who is involved in the product now that is a mid-carder or just entering, starting their rise to stardom and going to be the next top guy, the next world champion. And that's something I thought of Edge at the time. And right now, that's something I think of people like Riddle and Montez Ford and obviously Theory and people like that. So WWE has a lot of guys who you can look at and you can see that they may grow when you really look back at guys like Edge and see how far they came. Now they got us back from their commercial break here with an update of what happened before. We got people checking Terry backstage, check if she has a miscarriage or what. Not sure what is wrong with her at the time. D'Lo Brown looks distraught, holding his head up against the wall. This was an angle that you would not see today at all. This along with the Godfather himself, Val Venus himself, all this stuff with Mark Henry. You never see this stuff today. Now we have another entrance about to occur.
What's going to happen tonight? What else is going to happen? Shawn Michaels is still the commissioner. Mr. McMahon was named number 2 in the Royal Rumble. Shawn Michaels still the commissioner. Mankind will meet The Rock for the WWF Championship with no disqualification. And there's a Stone Cold surprise somewhere in the mix. And this is a surprise. I mean, here's Shane McMahon coming back out here. Shane McMahon leading Kane to the ring. He had his...
So Shane McMahon back out here with Kane, Briscoe, and Patterson. Not sure exactly what they're coming out here for because we've already seen Shane twice. We've seen the Patterson and Briscoe combo twice. We've seen Kane twice now. Kane in the ring here after making his debut in 1998 at the King of the Ring. Here we go as he sets the posts on fire. And let's see what they have to say here.
Obviously something to do with that man, Kane. That Shane is gutsy. Look at Pat Patterson. This is just ridiculous. He's mocking Kane, King.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a special announcement tonight, a special event. It is a handicap match.
What?
Tonight you will see Kane take on, about to make their way down the aisle, weighing in at 422 pounds combined. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson, the Stooges.
What? Briscoe and Patterson? What? In a handicap match against Kane?
Get your hand.
So Shane's basically pissed off that the Patterson and Briscoe combo didn't protect him before. Patterson and Briscoe mocked the heck out of Kane. They got a sign on his back right now. Now Vince is here.
Everyone who was remotely responsible for my son's emotional scarring had to pay. Kane, make them pay.
Sick of Kane, sick of... Oh, my God.
So they're using Kane here to beat the heck out of Gerald Briscoe and Pat Patterson for evidently not protecting Shane last week or even tonight for that matter. So here we go. We got Patterson offering a cigarette here to Kane. Kane says, the heck with that.
What was that? Oh! Now Briscoe from behind.
You're gonna take that? You're gonna take the humiliation? If those guys see you, look at you wearing a Briscoe Brothers body shop sign on your back. That's it. Oh yeah.
Look at Pat now.
Get up, baby.
First the Uncle Kane approach. And then Patterson's got a chair.
Big choke slam to Gerald Briscoe there.
Oh, come on now. Yeah, have a seat.
Oh, nice help.
Whoa. Hey, wait a minute.
That's it, Kane. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby.
Patterson going for the ride.
And Patterson is, oh my God.
And Pat Patterson gets himself choke slammed. So they beat the heck out of Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe, utilizing Kane here. So Kane here continues to beat the heck out of Briscoe and Patterson. Listen to what.
He comes close to Shane. Wait a minute. Kane has Shane. Listen.
You go back. Kane, you're going back.
They're talking about the insane asylum. Yeah.
That's right, Kane.
So Lawler saying anybody that hurt Shane has hell to pay. And they're playing off this angle here that Kane has basically no mental capacity to understand who he's supposed to attack, when he's supposed to attack them, and that he belongs in an insane asylum, and that the corporation is keeping him out of that. And as long as he follows Mr. McMahon's orders, that he will remain out of the insane asylum. There was one part of the Royal Rumble where he entered the Royal Rumble and a bunch of guys with straitjackets came to get him from the insane asylum, and he entered the Rumble and eliminated himself from the Rumble by running away from these guys who were coming after him in the white coats. Now, he didn't necessarily run away. He beat the heck out of him in the process, but it was pretty funny how he got in the ring and eliminated himself to take out all these guys. They played this angle on Kane a couple times here early in his career, and then they moved on for him. But I never really liked the part of the Kane story where he wasn't someone with the mental capacity to understand things. I always liked the character. I loved the story with him and Undertaker. I thought it was one of the best stories that WWE has had that has carried over a long term, is the Kane and Undertaker story. The brother who burned down the house and had the long lost brother who got damaged in the fire. And that was one of the best things that, Pritchard created as a member of the WWE creative team. And I have to give him a lot of credit for that, because that's definitely a storyline and, just an overall idea that can never be replicated to the degree that it was, and will never be done like that again. So now with the show, we're getting closer and closer to our main event of The Rock and Mankind. But before we get there, we are going to take one more break for a commercial, and we will be right back.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back.
All right, and we're back on Beyond the Mat. Again, we have another guy hanging in a dark area, being taken out of that area by two men that we cannot recognize because it's too dark. Now, this was Midian in the dark area, being hung there and being kept captive, and I believe it was the Acolytes who let him down and brought him into the Ministry of Darkness. Now we have an entrance by Al Snow. He is entering with Head.
This guy is nuts. He's certifiably nuts, King, and he's still wearing that blood-soaked shirt from 2 weeks ago. Yeah, the Brood made him that way. That bloodbath made him nuts. I guess he thinks that Head's going to fight this hardcore match for him. Look at the Head. Hardcore matchup, no holds barred, anything goes. Falls count anywhere, no disqualification or count out.
So it it's interesting. You could tell that Al Snow was over, but Road Dogg is definitely very over too. He had the great mic skills. They start this hardcore match at the top of the stage. Isn't something we normally see today. We don't see these hardcore matches at all. The closest thing that we see is the 24/7 title. And if they can go back to this, it'd be worth it to have a 24/7 title if you had guys fighting all over the place and doing this kind of hardcore stuff. But it's just not something they do these days, and it's a shame. Going back and watching some of these hardcore matches, pretty entertaining. I mean, it's not all great. Some of it was kind of silly, but some of it was also fun. There was one where Al Snow and Steve Blackman and Hardcore Holly fought each other into the Mississippi River in the middle of the winter. And, you know, those matches were great. Then you had Crash Holly coming in and being the hardcore champion, instituting the 24/7 rule on it. And they had the segments where he'd be at a DZ Discovery Zone or something like that, and somebody would be trying to pin him in the ball pit. I thought that stuff was really entertaining at the time. It's a shame they can't bring back that in the same capacity that it is and make it as entertaining as it was, because nowadays, even though it's a 24/7 title and anybody can get it, the material they use for it is not as captivating, is not as fun or interesting, and doesn't jive as much with the overall wrestling program. It's always like an ancillary thing that isn't exactly pro wrestling entertainment. It's more sitcom or high school drama entertainment than the kind of entertainment that you want to see on a wrestling show. So these guys are really going at it. Al Snow just put himself through a table. Don't really see this kind of violence these days in matches. Of course, we see tables matches and things like that, but they're all laid out, spread apart. We're getting cookie sheets involved in this match. Guys flipping over on the tables. Road Dogg, Jesse James going for the win there after Al Snow put himself through the table with the moonsault that Road Dogg moved out of the way for. Road Dogg now banging the cookie sheet on Al Snow's head, bending in half a couple times. Al Snow's drenched in blood because the Brood bloodbathed him a couple weeks ago. The Brood at this point consisted of Christian and Gangrel. They had not brought Edge into the group yet. Now they're fighting their way up the entranceway. They're continuing to beat each other with some strikes here. Now, after this match, we do have the main event of The Rock and Mankind, which is what we've been waiting for. Very interesting situation because they're using the cables to choke each other. They're fighting into the crowd now. You know, we just don't see that this day and age, and it's fun to see it on a Monday Night Raw episode from the Attitude Era because, like I say, the things that we've seen tonight with the Goldust and the Road Dogg in this match, and Mark Henry and Terry Reynolds and the pregnancy angle, all these different things, Val Venus, they're all Attitude Era things that are identifiable parts of the Attitude Era that we all remember and that we all associate with the Attitude Era, the Godfather being another one. This match is going a little bit long. We got Road Dogg taking down Al Snow with a hip toss out on the concrete. He's throwing up the X. Goes for a jump off of the steps, knocks him out. Road Dogg Jesse James looking pretty strong here against Al Snow. Now, the interesting thing about these hardcore matches is we would see guys get the heck beat out of them with all kinds of different stuff. We'd see popcorn get thrown at them. We get drinks, and they'd act like the drinks were cups of acid and burn their face. They'd act like the popcorn were napalm or something like that. And I always thought it was funny the way the guys would have to sell these kinds of things. Now they're actually backstage underneath the arena as they go to finish this hardcore match off. Al Snow now has the upper hand. He's choking the heck out of Road Dogg Jesse James here. We're getting further and further into the show. We're an hour and 12 minutes exactly, if you're trying to keep up with me. Just 23 minutes left in the show, so we know the main event's coming soon here. Moving on, we got a box of toilet paper getting thrown at Road Dogg Jesse James, and he gets beat over the back with a cue stick. Seems like Al Snow is getting ready to go for the win here as he gets close, but Road Dogg fights back and rams his head into an equipment case. So good hardcore match here, guys, fighting back and forth, being resourceful, using all kinds of different weapons. But, you know, I always thought Road Dogg was a guy who was going to become a bigger intercontinental champion. He did have the IC title at one time, but he basically hung back in the hardcore division and the mid-card, and obviously the tag division with the New Age Outlaws for the longest time. Never really took off as a single star. Snow, we all know that he was an Ohio Valley wrestling guy. He has trained many wrestlers over the years. That's where he went after he was in the WWF. He also went on after this to feud with several different guys. He feuded with Big Boss Man. Big Boss Man kidnapped his dog and actually kept it for a while and then wouldn't give it back, and then eventually fed Al Snow a dinner that he said was steak, but it was actually his dog. Again, only things we'd see in the Attitude Era. Another thing that happened with Boss Man and Snow was that feud culminated in what they called the Kennel from Hell match, which was basically a Hell in a Cell with dogs running around the outside of the ringside area within the cell, and it was a complete mess. The dogs weren't even interested in barking or biting the competitors. They were interested in crapping all over the side of the ring side area, and nothing went the way that they planned. They thought they'd have these dogs trained to sort of try to bite each of the wrestlers and scare the Big Boss Man in this match. That was the whole point of it, and it ended up being a bunch of guys that could not handle these dogs, and these dogs being completely out of control and not doing anything that they expected them to do. We now have this match carrying outside into the snow for Al Snow and the Road Dogg, and they're putting over the fact that it's cold. Let's listen to a little bit of this track here.
Road Dogg in control, Al Snow. They're fighting in the snow outside. I'm telling you, Michael, only in the WWF would you see something like this. The referee, Jack Doe, can't even keep his footing. And these guys are hammering away. This is great. Road Dogg into that steel fence. No parking. No road work. Al Snow working on the Road Dogg. Hey, that's a stucco. Kick to the midsection. Oh no, you gotta be kidding me! Power driver! Road Dogg just pile drive Al Snow! That man broken his neck! Al Snow's motionless! Here's the cover! It's over! Road Dogg is...
So the Road Dogg actually wins the Hardcore Championship here out in the snow over Al Snow by pile driving him into a pallet. So Road Dogg becomes the new Hardcore Champion here on Raw. And that's a nice title change there. Nice for the Road Dogg to grab that as he heads back inside here. And we're getting set up for our main event here, which is coming up next. It's going to be a great main event. Remember, I mentioned the fact that we had the Corporation and DX all out at the same time. Now we're getting a backstage segment here with Road Dogg running back to the fans to celebrate. And let's listen to what they said. So they really like the Road Dogg there in this arena here. Now, like I said, we had DX out, we had Corporation out to start the show, and then to end the show, we have this big match here between The Rock and Mankind, and it ends up that we have Throughout the show, we have DX guys in matches. We have corporation guys in matches making multiple entrances. And then the show ends with this main event with all those guys back out there again. All the top guys, you know something big is going to happen. We have DX out there and the corporation out there. We're going to track the entrances of The Rock and Mankind just to get a grasp for how the crowd was reacting to these two at the time. And of course, we're going to track the big surprise that comes during the match as well as the ending. And we're getting there just about now. Before we do, though, we have Shawn Michaels leaving DX, letting him know that everything will be all right. And here is what happens.
Thank you. Hey, another big deal. Be right back. See you guys. Maybe not. Where's Ron comes from?
So Shawn Michaels obviously off to get the Stone Cold surprise he promised earlier on.
Yeah, but one of those guys just,
Michaels trying to enter his car. He can't get into his car right now. Michaels now locked out of the building.
Hey, Shawn!
Oh, no. This is a live shot outside the arena. This is what's left, King, of Shawn Michaels after a brutal, savage attack just a few moments ago. Well, I mean, you know, he had it coming. Mr. McMahon warned him this is what was going to happen. He said he was going to get dismembered. Well, as we left the air, Shawn Michaels having problems getting into that car, went back to the door area, and then he heard someone yell out. Well, watch this. Right here, he realizes he's been had. Yeah, he realizes he's in trouble.
Good night, boy.
Back now live, the emergency medical technicians attending to Shawn Michaels.
So the corporation beat down Shawn Michaels here outside of the arena after his Stone Cold surprise and whatever Vince McMahon ordered them to do as we're getting ready to get into this main event here. And so now we got Shawn Michaels getting taken off so they can keep him off TV, basically. That's the reason why they did this at this time. And we are getting all set for our Mankind and Rock showdown, which Tony Schiavone said sarcastically would sure put some asses in some seats. And it damn sure did. And we'll track their entrances in just a moment. But before we do that, we will take one more commercial break and we will come back with your main event. We will be at 1 hour and 20 minutes just about to start the main event on your Peacock machine. So make sure you have it set there and we'll get into the biggest part of the show.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back.
All right, we are back now on Beyond the Mat to follow up and finish our watch along of the January 4th, 1999 Monday Night Raw, where Foley wins the title. We are at 1 minute and 20 seconds. Foley is making his entrance at this time, and we are going to track his entrance here in just a moment. We also have Corporation and DX coming out ringside here, and here comes Mick Foley's entrance. You can hear the crowd just erupting for him here.
Mankind to take on The Rock for the WWF Championship. No disqualification.
Certainly not a Stone Cold pop, but a nice pop there. Nice baby face reaction from Mankind.
I gotta be real worried. Mankind holding Shane McMahon hostage earlier on, forcing Mr. McMahon to agree to this matchup against The Rock in the no disqualification stipulation. Wait a minute. And here comes DX. Here comes DX. DX is adopted. Mankind is part of the family in recent weeks. Oh, this is really getting interesting now. And here is Mankind, Mick Foley, the kid who played cowboys and Indians as a kid.
Rock. He's a heel here representing the corporation, but the people are still standing up, and some of them are giving some cheers here. You can tell that people know they're seeing a big star here.
WWF Championship is up for grabs. There's no disqualification.
He enters with the entire corporation as well.
Are stacked against Mick Foley. Not only the great athlete, The Rock, but the entire corporation will obviously be at ringside, and there's no disqualification.
But I'm going to tell you something. I'm worried because The Rock was not prepared for this match. Look, he still doesn't have his wrestling attire on.
But he's a champion, King. He should always be ready. The Rock is what Mr. McMahon wants a champion to be. He embodies the WWF Championship. But can you imagine if Mankind could somehow pull it out and win the championship?
No, come on, listen. I don't even want to imagine it, okay? I mean, look at him. He's a freak. Even Mr. McMahon said he's a genetically altered, mentally deficient freak. Come on and face it. He's lost most of his teeth. He's only got one ear. He's pulled out most of his own.
Got Earl Hebner as a referee, so we know it's a big match. He always was the referee for the big matches. Commentary here putting over the fact that it'd be egregious for Mankind to be the champion, and that The Rock is a perfect corporate champion. Starting the match here, got all of our top guys out here. You can tell something big's going to happen. You can tell the way that they were talking about Mankind that, it might go the other way. Starts off with The Rock hot, beating the heck out of Mankind here. You got all of the corporation opposite hard cam side and all of DX on the hard cam side, which is actually kind of weird to have them there because you're staring at their backs the whole time from the hard cam. You'd think they'd have them located maybe over in the side facing the Titantron or even the announce desk side, but they were on the hard cam side. Rock and Mankind are fighting ringside. I have some audio playing in the background. I don't know if that's annoying or what, but I will turn it up when we get to an important part of the match. This is a big moment, though. You can tell with all these main guys out there. Vince is out there. Briscoes. Test. Got Triple H. Road Dogg Jesse James. Badass Billy Gunn, X-Pac, China. Like I said, all of DX, Shamrock's out there. They're putting all their top guys out there to witness this. You got Shane and Kane with Vince McMahon on the entranceway. The Rock is beating the crap out of Mankind at this point. Slams the ring steps on him, picks up the bottom of the ring steps, slams that part on him. He's brutalizing Mankind. Now, the reason why Mankind and The Rock got involved in a feud is because Mankind wanted to put The Rock over. He wanted to elevate The Rock to a point that nobody else could. He wanted to add some brutality to The Rock's character. The Rock didn't have that at that time. Even right here, as the corporate champion, The Rock was not yet what he would be. He did have a planned babyface turn coming in the spring, which came and it went off like a hitch, especially with Stone Cold, the other top babyface, not being available. The Rock was able to step right into that. Now, when Stone Cold was available, The Rock got stuck in sort of some dead-end feuds with people like Billy Gunn. He actually buried Billy Gunn in a promo later that summer, and they had to send Billy Gunn away to basically reformulate his character, even after they had him win the King of the Ring to try to elevate him a little bit. But back to the Mankind and Rock feud. Mankind wanted to add some brutality to The Rock's character. The Rock had not gotten as far as he's going to get at this point. Now, if you go back 4 months, he was night and day different than he even is now in this episode. But he hadn't gotten that side of his character that is sort of the don't trust anybody, Stone Cold mentality, and the brutal side of his character out yet. He was more of a blue chipper and things like that. They turned him heel because his white meat baby face tried to start out with didn't work. But having these matches with Mankind would put him over more as a tough opponent and a guy who could get through brutal matches and things like that. This is something that Mankind did throughout his career for other superstars as well. He did it for Triple H, did it for Stone Cold Steve Austin at a time. He even did it for The Undertaker. If you really want to analyze it, I mean, he took the big bump off of the top of the Hell in the Cell. I was there for that show in Pittsburgh at that King of the Ring 98. The Rock just hit a rock bottom on Mankind through the announce desk. In fact, let's track that one for a second. That crashing sound was Mankind going through the announce desk 2 different times that they showed the replay. Now we got The Rock upper hand ringside with Mankind. Looks like he's taking it back into the ring to try to help finish him off. Vince McMahon scoping out the situation. And we got all the top guys surrounding ringside here. Anytime you got all these guys out here, you know there's going to be some sort of interference by somebody, most likely by one of the guys at ringside. Rock goes for a cover, only gets 2, continues to work on Mankind. But I really do think that Mankind succeeded in what he was trying to do when working with The Rock. They had that brutal I Quit match, obviously, that we all know about, but they also had the empty arena match during halftime heat of the Super Bowl that year. And they had other matches that were of a harder core style than The Rock normally works. And it put The Rock over as a tougher and more aggressive character. Now, the Royal Rumble match obviously didn't go as planned. I'm not sure what exactly happened there. The Rock ended the match by hitting 11 unprotected chair shots to the head of Mankind, who was supposed to roll out of the ring to the aisle after 4 of the chair shots, and then he was supposed to say, "I quit." It's not clear whether Mankind communicated to The Rock to keep hitting him, or if The Rock was confused why Mankind didn't roll out like he was scripted to do, but The Rock continued to hit him so hard it was hard to watch. It destroyed the chair. It was one of the most brutal things I've seen on TV and wrestling. And he ended up saying, "I quit," by it being played over the loudspeaker. I still don't know whether that was the original plan or if they were going to actually have Mankind say, "I quit," but he couldn't because he was knocked out. He needed to get stitches immediately after the match. One of the things that Mankind was upset about at that time was that The Rock didn't immediately apologize to him, but The Rock actually did apologize to him. Mankind was so concussed he couldn't remember. So at this point in the match here, we got both men down. They just doubled down. We got a nervous looking Vince McMahon as Mankind's trying to get control. The corporation's interfering. The Rock just got the title belt thrown into the ring, clocks Mankind with it. Looks like it's going to be over. Referee Earl Hebner was distracted by the corporation. Mankind kicks out, though. The fans are going crazy here. Now let's track part of this match here.
We got no desk here. Rock again with the bell. Misses. Mankind. Kick to the midsection. Setting him up. DDT on the championship. Mankind with the cover. No. We can have a new champion. 2. And Rock gets the shoulder up. Mankind is said for years and years.
So Mankind's fighting back here. You can feel the crowd excited that Mankind might win this match. He just pulled out the sock to do the mandible claw with it.
Mr. Sacco! Rock tasted Mr. Sacco at rock bottom. Rock, look out! He could taste it again tonight, and he does! Mr. Sacco! Mankind is locked in the mandible claw with Mr. Sacco. Mr. McMahon, you gotta do something! The Rock may be out!
Rock's passing out here to Mandible Claw. Shamrock in the ring with the chair, but he's taken out by Billy Gunn. Billy Gunn beats him down ringside. So there's a callback to that feud earlier. So you heard the huge pop after the glass breaking for Stone Cold Steve Austin. He comes in, takes out The Rock with the chair, and Mankind gets the pin. Listen to the crowd reaction.
Who's been told you can't do it? No, you can't do it. You can't do this. Mick Foley has come a long way from his first match in Clarksburg, West Virginia, 15 years ago. Oh, Mick Foley has come a long way. Oh, hell yeah, Mick Foley. Oh, shut up. He's come a long way. Since sleeping on the floors of Motel 6s. From sleeping in his Ford Fairmont, learning to wrestle. He's been known as Dude Love, Cactus Jack, Mankind, but tonight...
DX picks him up and carries him around the ring as he wins his first WWF title. Misses Foley's little boy here. Vince McMahon looks sick to his stomach, tells The Rock that he will give him a shot to get it back.
Freak of nature from the days he was called Moby Mick. Get that off the screen. He's the champion of the WWF. This is unbelievable. He was once called Moby Mick as a punchy champ, but tonight he is champion. Anybody but him. He wanted to hear the people cheer for him, for his ability, for his talent. And they're cheering for him for his champion. Without further ado, I announce to you the new World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Champion. You can't measure guts, heart, and determination. He may not be the most talented. He may not be the best.
And that's Road Dogg Jesse James giving Mankind the congratulations in the same fashion that he introduces himself and Billy Gunn as the New Age Outlaws, the tag team champions of the world, of course. Vince McMahon on the stage saying anybody but Mankind, anybody but Mankind. Here's Mankind.
This feels pretty damn good.
He says it feels pretty damn good to be the WWF champion, and Cole saying he's no longer a kid who just ate worms. This was a huge moment in the Attitude Era and a huge turning point for WWF in the Monday Night Wars with WCW. They had already ended the 83 weeks up to this point, but this was the turning point where it really stayed in favor of the WWF, and they continued to win the ratings war after this. The feud between Mankind and The Rock was absolutely brutal and very good. And it was a great feud to get The Rock heated up to go into WrestleMania as champion against Stone Cold Steve Austin at Mania 15. Mankind was also an excellent step-in opponent for The Rock while Stone Cold Steve Austin was away with the injury. So what they did here was really good, enhancing The Rock's character. It was a great, well put together through story for the whole episode to have this issue at the beginning with Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin and the Royal Rumble and Shawn Michaels setting something up for them to be number one and number two. Then we had the corporation take him out. We had Vince McMahon put Triple H and Mankind in a match with his son as the guest referee for some reason I don't know. And then we had the main event match with all these top guys out there, and this big moment for Mick Foley to win the title Obviously, judging by the fan reaction and the commentary putting it over, you can tell it's a huge moment. Anybody who tuned into this back in the day and lived it in the moment could feel that it was a big moment, and it played out over the course of history to be a major moment in the war between WCW and WWF, and went a long way to WWF holding the ratings war lead and becoming what they would become. This was also something that came on the heels of a lot of different things that led to The Rock becoming champion, like the Survivor Series 98 Deadly Games tournament and Stone Cold Steve Austin getting hurt. So those are all things that we are going to go over in our other watch-alongs and our other in-depth retro reviews. Just wanted to start one here and get a little bit out there on one of the better Raw episodes, one of the more memorable Raw episodes, in my opinion, for my life of all time. And I'm always going to share things based on the feeling that I have. This episode gave me the feeling of excitement and intrigue, and was part of the reason why I really got invested in WWE to begin with, and really left WCW in the dust. And I know I mentioned that earlier, but that's something that I think is important about this episode. There's so many people I know that were people who acknowledged they changed the channel, or they acknowledged that this was a big turning point for WWF. We'll get into what led up to this when we get into the Deadly Games tournament, and when we review all of the Raws for the year of 1998, which leads us right up to this one, which was the first of 1999. Until next time, though, guys, I will be heading out. Remember to like and subscribe to us. Give us a 5-star rating if you can. And we're available on all podcast platforms, so we shouldn't be hard to find. If you want the ad-free content, we have it available on Patreon, along with a lot of other goodies. You can find us on social media at Beyond Matt WWE, and you can email us anytime, matt@beyondthemat.com. Until next time, I will catch you guys later. I'm out of here. I hope you enjoyed the watch along. We'll do more of them and have a little bit cleaner presentation the next couple of times. This was one of the first ones we did, and I wanted to get through it pretty quickly because I know that the main event in this one was really what the show was all about. The Gold Dust matches and the Godfather matches, they were all just nostalgic attitude era things that were happy for me to see. But at the end of the day, that main event was such a big deal. The pop for Austin coming in was outstandingly, earth-shattering. It unglued the building. The fans were waiting for it. They didn't know if it was going to happen, and it did. Another show that we're going to review soon, Backlash 2000, had a similar run-in by Austin during the main event. Similar pop, only in that case he was running in favor of The Rock. So we will get to that one too. Until then, like I said, follow us on social media and positive review, 5 stars if you can do it, Patreon if you can afford it, and as always, we'll be back. I'm out of here, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mat. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a show.